If you've ever been judged for what they thought you didn't have, this story is for you. Subscribe to Revenge with DMA for quiet, powerful stories of identity, betrayal, and truth revealed at just the right time. Has anyone ever left you for someone better, only to learn too late who you really were? Tell your story below. My name is Andrew. I'm 35. I run a small chain of local restaurants, mostly street food style, modernized for takeout and delivery. Simple food. Honest food. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. The ballroom shimmered in gold and ivory. Tall glass vases lined the aisles. A grand chandelier loomed overhead like a crown. Everything looked curated, expensive, high-tier, cold. I arrived through the side entrance, flanked by my father and the groom, my little brother, Nathan. He looked nervous, adjusting his cufflinks for the 5th time. I clapped a hand on his shoulder. You sure about this? He gave a hesitant smile. Too late not to be, I chuckled softly. Then let's get you married. But the moment we stepped into the light, all conversation died. Every eye in the room turned to us. Me, and then her, Lucy. She stood at the end of the aisle, her hand wrapped around Nathan's arm, the same hand I used to hold. She turned, laughing at something his mother said, then saw me, and everything in her face changed. The color left her cheeks. Her lips parted just slightly. The air between us bent. For a moment, I saw confusion, then realization, and finally fear, because in her mind, I was still the street food guy, still the flannel shirt, quiet, smiling boyfriend who never bragged, never demanded attention. She didn't know I was Andrew Langston, heir to the Langston Group, because I never needed her to, until now. The ceremony began. I stood behind my brother, composed and calm. Lucy kept glancing at me, little jerks of her neck. She thought no one would notice, but I noticed. So did my father. He leaned in and whispered, "She's the one who left you, isn't she?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. He exhaled once through his nose, then stood a little straighter. My father may be ruthless in business, but loyalty, that's his language, and Lucy had just spoken the opposite. At the reception, I didn't approach her. I didn't need to. The room did it for me. Everyone wanted to talk. Executives I hadn't seen in years, board members from Langston Group, even the CEO of the very company Lucy worked for. They all greeted me like I had just stepped into the throne. Andrew, we didn't expect you back so soon. Heard you might be taking over next quarter. True? Those restaurants of yours, impressive margins. Langston blood runs deep. I nodded. Thanked them. Not once did I raise my voice. Not once did I mention Lucy, but she heard everything. She stood near the champagne tower, watching me like I was a stranger in her home, and in a way, I was, because this wasn't her version of me. This was the real one, the one who didn't need her approval, the one who didn't flinch when she walked away, the one who had always been more than enough. She just wasn't looking closely. Later that night, after the speeches, after the first dance, I stepped out onto the terrace. The night was cool, quiet, and then I heard her voice, "Andrew." I turned slowly. She stood in her wedding dress, veil pulled back, hands clenched at her sides. "I didn't know," she said, breath short. "About you. About all this." I gave her a half smile. "Wasn't relevant. You said I wasn't enough, remember?" "I didn't mean." She took a step forward. "I just thought you didn't want more." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean I didn't flaunt more?" "There's a difference." She went quiet, then softer. "Why didn't you tell me? Would it have mattered?" She blinked. "I told you I needed someone who fit my world," she whispered. "And now that you think I do," I said gently, "you want back in." She looked down, ashamed. "Andrew, I made a mistake. I was scared. I thought I needed security. But the truth is, I felt safe with you. I nodded once, then said something I'd never thought I'd say. Lucy, you didn't choose wrong. You chose exactly what you wanted, and now you live with it. She opened her mouth, closed it. Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't comfort her because those tears weren't for me. They were for what she lost. Back inside, my brother was looking for her. He spotted her on the terrace. Standing alone, he waved me over. Did she say anything weird? I smiled. She's just overwhelmed. It's a big day. He nodded, relieved, and I realized I didn't need to ruin anything, didn't need to reveal, didn't need to expose. She exposed herself. To the one person who mattered, and to the only person who would remember. Me. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Nathan. He sounded different, quieter. Hey, he said. You got a minute? Of course. He sighed. Lucy left. Said she wasn't ready. Said she needed space. I didn't gloat. Didn't say I told you so. I just said, some people only love what they can rise above, but once they can't, they run. He went quiet. I wish you told me. He said finally, you wouldn't have believed me. He laughed once, sad and sharp. Yeah, maybe not. I'm sorry, Nathan. Don't be. You walked away with peace. I walked into her storm. Now I still run my food business, still wear sneakers and flannel, but I sit on the Langston group board. I lead strategy now and soon. I'll run the whole thing, not because I need power, but because I know what to do with it. And if you ask me what I did when the woman who said I wasn't enough married into the very world she thought I didn't belong to, I'll tell you this. I smiled, stood still, and let the truth walk up the aisle. I dress in flannel and sneakers, drive a 2014 pickup that smells like coffee and chili oil, and I like to build slow. What most people don't know and I never needed anyone to know is that I'm also the only son of billionaire real estate mogul Edward Langston, a man who owns over a dozen companies, but never told me I had to wear the crown, build something of your own. He said when I was 23, if you can do that, the family business will always be waiting. But don't come home without scars. So I built, quietly, 3 food carts, then 5, then brick and mortar shops across 3 states. My name was never in headlines, but my numbers were in the black. And my staff stayed with me. That's the man Lucy fell in love with, or so I thought. We dated for 2 years. She said she loved how grounded I was, how I didn't care for status, how I'd rather cook with her at midnight than dine with executives. She said all the right things until the night she changed her mind. We were having dinner on my back porch, candles flickering between us. She was unusually quiet, kept checking her phone. Then she put her wine glass down and said, Andrew, I've been thinking. Maybe we want different things. I need someone who fits the life I'm building. Someone who can elevate me. You're kind. But you're not that. I didn't say anything, just stared. She continued, there's someone else. He understands the world I'm in. His father owns the group I work for. He's next in line. I can't keep pretending I'm okay dating someone who sells noodles in paper boxes. That line didn't hurt, not really, because it told me everything I needed to know. She was never in love with me. She was in love with a version of me she thought she could outgrow. I looked at her, really looked, then smiled. I hope you find what you're looking for, I said, and I meant it, because when someone tells you you're not enough, you don't prove them wrong with words. You prove it with absence. She left that night, and I let her go without looking back. I didn't text, didn't call, didn't even ask who the other guy was, until exactly 1 month later, I walked into a hotel ballroom as best man to my younger brother's wedding, and saw Lucy standing there in a white dress. She was marrying him, the other guy, and that was the moment their eyes met. Minion. She realized I wasn't just a guest. I was the older brother and the future head of the Langston Empire. After Nathan called to say Lucy had left, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt sad, not for me, not for what we were. That ended long ago. I felt sad for him, because my brother Ernest, gentle, romantic to a fault, didn't deserve to become just another stepping stone in someone else's ambition. He hadn't known what she was looking for. But she had position, power, perception, and when she realized none of it guaranteed the kind of love that sits in silence and still sees you, she left. Again, only this time, I didn't pick up the pieces. He did, on his own, and that was the beginning of something better for both of us. A few weeks passed. I focused on work. Langston Group had reached a crucial point. My father was stepping back slowly, whispering the words succession plan more often during our walks. He started bringing me to meetings, not as a silent observer, but as a voice. I would still run my own businesses. That was never off the table, but I was now becoming something I never set out to be visible. People began to pay attention, not to the inheritance, to the discipline. This is the guy who ran a restaurant chain without using our last name. Did you see his numbers? He's not just next in line. He's already running laps around us. I didn't gloat, didn't post, didn't announce, but word got around, and that's when it happened. One afternoon, I walked into one of our properties to meet a supplier. As I was leaving, I saw her, Lucy, at the cafe across the street. Alone. I don't know if fate is real, but timing's ruthless. She didn't see me at first. I could have walked away, could have pretended I never saw her, but I didn't. I walked over, calm, grounded. Lucy, she looked up, and when she saw me, her face went from blank to panicked in a heartbeat. Andrew. Wow. Hi, I sat across from her. I didn't ask for permission. You look good, she said, awkwardly tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. You too. She gave a soft laugh. No, I don't. I've been processing a lot. I said nothing. She sipped her coffee, then looked up. I guess you heard that you left my brother? I asked. Her face fell. I didn't mean for it to happen. Like that? Then how did you mean for it to happen? She opened her mouth, then closed it. I was confused. She said, no. You were clear. I remember the words. She looked down. I didn't know. She whispered, didn't know. What? She looked at me again. Her eyes watered, not dramatically. Just warned. I didn't know what I had. I didn't know you were all that. I thought you were just trying to live small. I smiled. Sadly, I wasn't living small. I was living authentically. There's a difference, she nodded. I see that now. We sat in silence. Then she leaned forward, voice barely audible. I miss you. I looked at her carefully. No, I said. You miss what I became, not who I was. Tears finally rolled down her cheek. I made a mistake. You made a choice, I said gently. And you made it twice. Once when you left me, and again when you married into what you thought was status. I stood. I don't hate you, Lucy. I never did. But I can't forget who you became when you thought I had nothing. She sobbed softly. I'm sorry, she whispered. I nodded. I believe you. But that doesn't mean I invite you back. And I walked away, not with pride, not with vengeance, just with closure. That night, Nathan called again. I heard you saw her, he said. I did. He paused. I think I'm ready to be done with it, he said. With chasing what looks good. On paper. With people who only love you when you shine, I'm glad, I said. That's where real love begins. We talked about family. About business. About what's next, not just for me, for us. Two brothers, one who finally saw the truth, and one who had waited long enough for it to arrive. 6 months later, I launched a new initiative within Langston Group, funding startups led by people who'd been overlooked, founders who didn't wear the right suits, who didn't name drop, but who knew how to build. We called it Understated, and it grew fast because the world doesn't need more show. It needs more substance. And I knew exactly what that looked like. People still talk about the wedding, not because of how beautiful it was, but because of what unraveled after. And sometimes I still get asked, what did it feel like? Seeing her realize who you were. And I always answer, it wasn't about her seeing me. It was about me no longer needing her to. Because she didn't break me, she revealed me, and once I saw who I really was, I never let anyone question it again. It's strange how people remember you not for what you were to them, but for what they lost after they let go, after the launch of the Understated Fund. Press started circling again, not the kind of gossip-fueled noise that chases scandal, but the kind that follows stories of quiet disruption. Heir to the Langston Group invests in small-town founders with big hearts. Andrew Langston backs entrepreneurs who don't fit the mold, like he once didn't. People were talking, and in that talking, Lucy's name came up. In whispers, in looks, because the truth always floats no matter how deep someone tries to bury it. I never mentioned her publicly, not once, but it didn't matter. People knew, and more importantly, she knew. 3 months after the last CAF encounter, I got a message from a burner account. No name, no profile photo, just a single sentence. Can we talk? I need to say it out loud. I knew it was her. I didn't respond because I'd already heard everything I needed to hear in silence. She'd said I wasn't enough, that I didn't fit, that her new boyfriend, my younger brother, could elevate her. But now, she had fallen from a place she thought she had climbed and realized the ladder wasn't even hers to begin with. Nathan didn't take her back. He never even asked why she left. When I finally told him who she had been to me, he shook his head. That explains everything, he said, then added, I feel embarrassed. You shouldn't, I said. She fooled me too. But that's what good pretenders do. They mimic affection long enough to trade it for access. He looked at me with something I hadn't seen in his eyes since the wedding, gratitude and guilt. I didn't mean to step on your story, he said. You didn't, I replied. She just found a way to be in both and never told either of us the truth. That was the final chapter. No revenge, no confrontation, no public takedown, just accountability served in silence, and the kind of consequence that can't be undone. Being cut off from the one version of love that had no conditions. Mine. By the end of the year, I was invited to speak at a founders summit. I didn't talk about wealth or strategy or family legacy. I talked about what no one else wanted to say in rooms like that. We've glamorized ambition and forgotten character. We choose partnerships for power, not purpose, and we pretend that titles can replace trust. The room went still. Then I said, there was a time I let someone decide my worth based on the kind of car I drove. Now, I build companies around people who'd rather walk with integrity than drive with ego. The applause wasn't loud. It was respectful, earned, and afterward, a woman in her 50s approached me, tears in her eyes. My son's going through something like this, she said. He keeps thinking he wasn't enough. I looked her in the eye. Tell him this, I said. He was never lacking. He was just too real for someone addicted to the artificial. She nodded, and I knew it landed. That night, I walked through the old part of the city alone. No entourage. No suit, just sneakers, denim, a hoodie, I passed a bookstore, dimly lit. There, in the window, was still here, the book from Marcus, the guy who once posted his breakup vacation and accidentally went viral. His words sat on the cover like a quiet anthem. I didn't get even, I got free. And I smiled, because we were part of the same current. Men who didn't shout, but who outgrew. Lucy never married again. She moved cities, changed jobs, started working for a fashion label, and I still see her tagged occasionally, smiling with new people, writing captions about alignment and energy. But the eyes always give it away. She's still chasing rooms where she has to perform instead of showing up as someone who's finally enough for herself. I hope she finds it. I truly do, because in the end, I don't need her to regret me. I just needed to remember that she was never my finish line. She was my lesson, and once I learned it, I stopped needing apologies. Time didn't heal everything. It just made room. Room for better decisions. Room for clarity. Room for the version of me that no longer had to prove my worth by who stood beside me. After Lucy left Nathan, after she watched the life she thought she wanted slip through her fingers, I didn't gloat. I didn't send a message. I didn't tell her friends what she did. I didn't even repost the photos she once begged me to delete. I simply lived and kept living. Langston Group transitioned quietly into my hands. My father retired officially the following year. And at the board meeting, he simply stood, looked at me, and said, he didn't take the shortcut. He took the long way, and that's why I trust him with everything. Those words didn't land with fanfare. They landed with weight, because when you're handed a legacy, you have two choices: carry it like a burden or reshape it like a torch. I chose the second, not to impress anyone, not even to honor my father. I did it for the kid I used to be, the one who was once told by the girl he loved that he wasn't enough. That spring, I met someone. Her name's Elise. She's not flashy, not loud. She teaches literature at a community college and thinks boardrooms are weirdly cold. We met when she asked me casually why I always order my coffee the same way. We ended up talking for 2 hours about poetry and dumplings, and when she learned who I was, she didn't blink. She just asked, "But what makes you happy?" No one had asked me that in years. I told her, cooking barefoot, watching strangers enjoy food I designed, building without being seen until I want to be seen. She smiled, then let's stay off the pedestal. It's more comfortable down here anyway, and that's where we stayed. I never mentioned Lucy to Elise, not out of secrecy, but because Lucy no longer lived in my vocabulary. She had become a name I unlearned, a lesson I didn't need to teach again. And that, I think, is the truest kind of closure. Not forgiveness, not conversation, just absence. A year later, I got an email. No name in the sender line, just a few lines. I heard about the transition. You're exactly who I should have believed you were. I'm sorry I didn't stay long enough to learn that. I read it once, then archived it, because I didn't need her words anymore. Not as closure, not as comfort, not even as validation. I had already become the man she didn't stay to witness, and now I didn't need to prove that to anyone. People often say revenge is sweet, but the truth? Revenge is quiet. It's not a speech. It's not a confrontation. It's living so fully that your name becomes a reminder of everything they lost, and everything they'll never get again. That's what happened to Lucy, not because I planned it, but because I grew past the version of myself woe once needed her to see me. Now, the only eyes I care about are the ones that meet Minnie and never flinch at the truth. And the truth is, I was always enough. She just wasn't ready for Somi Anuho. Didn't need her to believe it.